there because we couldn't eat lunch together. We couldn't
Oh
go
man.
anywhere. We were just
Yeah.
sitting there for 25 minutes waiting for lunch to start. And it was very frustrating.
Yeah. Um, was there anything memorable about coming back to school in person?
Um, I just remember like the sudden onslaught of rules. So many just extra rules. They had they had one-way passages in the hallways where like everyone walks, you stay on the right side, which everyone followed for about a week.
Yeah.
uh, because it's a school hallway. What are you gonna do?
Right.
Um, but yeah, that yeah, there was very strict on masks. They wouldn't let you bring backpacks into classrooms at first.
Really? Oh,
Technically they
interesting.
technically they never removed that rule, but everyone was so completely indifferent to it that even the teachers didn't care about it. So
Hmm.
eventually it just kind of became a like whatever, we do it anyway.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, at first it was like no backpack, so you have to put it in your locker. You have to carry your like 14, like, well, not 14. You have to carry like your pre-calc book plus your binder plus your
Oh yeah.
calculator plus your lunch kit and all of that plus your laptop, and
Oh
just
my goodness.
walking from one end of the school to the other just like this. It's like
Right.
everything that's in my backpack is coming with me. Why
Yeah.
can't I bring an extra sack of pop? Yeah. And then there was also like no hats in school because with hat and mask you can't see anyone. Um, yeah, there were just a lot of rules and
Hmm.
most of them were kind of irrelevant.
Okay.
But yeah, it was just the onslaught of rules is definitely what I remember.
Okay. And did you feel safe returning to school, like with your school's like pandemic related protocols?
Um, I don't remember how I felt at first. I think I felt okay with it, but I was very conscious of the pandemic. So I was yeah, I stuck to the rules. I kept my mask on. I think at first I even kept my mask on in the classroom.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so yeah, it was pretty, like, I felt safe enough that, like, I could go. I felt comfortable, but I was also being very conscious of it. I was like, well, yeah, we're here. No one seems to have COVID, but they might
Right.
have COVID, so I'm going to keep my mask on just in case.
Yes. Yes.
So stuff like that. And I mean, yeah, I don't regret that at all. That was definitely a good thing. But yeah, I think I felt pretty safe overall. Safe, but cautious, I guess,
Okay.
is, yeah.
Yeah. And then how did your school handle like new COVID-19 cases? So if like a student tested positive, like what would happen? Like who would have to quarantine?
Um, what, so they had everyone in select cohorts and classrooms. And so what they would do is if one student got sick, or tested positive, then that student would have to quarantine, and they would tell all the students that are close to student A to self-monitor and be like, watch for symptoms, watch for anything that could be. And then if another one of those students tested positive, then they would consider it an exposure. And I think that's when they shut down in April.
Okay.
So yeah, we didn't really have we had very few COVID cases though. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with how exactly it worked. So,
Okay. Sounds good. Um, and so this past year, since you've been in school, has the schedule changed? Because I've been hearing a lot about like quadmesters.
yeah.
So is that how your school was too?
Yeah, pretty much. It was technically split up into 3 semesters,
Mhm.
but it was more like 4 with the middle 2 merged together. So so for the first semester, we had 2 classes, one morning class, one afternoon class, every day, all week for 3 months. Um, then the middle semester was twice as long with twice as many classes, and we just alternated. So we'd
Mhm.
take day 1 classes morning and afternoon, then day 2 classes morning and afternoon, repeating.
Interesting.
And then semester 3 was the same as semester 1, where we had a morning and afternoon class. It was it had its pros and cons. It was good to just have, it was nice to just have 1 or 2 things to focus on at a time. There
Mhm.
was yeah, not as much. I feel like it would have been very stressful to have to take all 8 courses all year at the same time. But at the same time, trying to do pre-calculus 12 in 3 months is a lot. And then, there were some students who were taking calculus and physics. And those two both were in the third semester. So they had physics 12 and calculus 12 both crammed into 3 months, and they're taking those courses, those 2 courses all day, all week for 3 months.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it has its pros, but it was also like it was pretty chaotic for a lot of the harder classes.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That doesn't
Yeah,
sound
no.
easy.
Yeah. I was originally going to take calculus, but I dropped it specifically because of that, because I didn't want to take calculus and physics for 3 months.
Right, right. No,
together.
absolutely. Is there anything that your school has done that has been helpful to you during the pandemic?
I mean, like the rules, yeah, they have hand sanitizer stations. Yeah, just kind of like the typical keeping people, yeah, sanitation, masks. Other than that, not really. Everything else felt more irritating and arbitrary than
Mm-hmm.
useful. Because
Yeah.
like it was annoying because they would allow us to be unmasked in classrooms together, but we couldn't go out on trips, even though we'd be in the same groups,
Mm-hmm.
probably outdoors and further apart, but we couldn't go on those trips. And so that felt almost, it just felt arbitrary and frustrating because it's, we're already doing A, which is so much more likely to pass COVID from one person to another. So why can't we do B, which is like, yeah, everything that wasn't absolutely necessary in their eyes, they removed. But I think
Okay.
in doing so, they removed anything that could have like made the year enjoyable. Everything just
Right.
felt like, yeah, it was just a year of rules and rigidity and arbitrary decisions. Because this was my graduation year. So we
Yeah.
were supposed to like go on a grad cruise and all these things. And I understand why we couldn't do all of those things. But at the same time, like some younger grades could go on educational trips, so it's like we were originally gonna have like a grad banquet at this park location where it's outdoors. We had a tent. We'd sit down and do this, have the banquet, but we couldn't do that. But the
Mm-hmm.
grade sixes could go to the park because it was labeled as an educational trip and not a grad trip.
Oh no.
And now I think that was actually based on a provincial mandate that grad events were canceled.
Hmm.
Um, but it just felt, and so many things like that happened throughout the year that you couldn't do, you could do A because it was educational, but you couldn't do B because it wasn't mandatory, even if they're like practically the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yes, I guess basic protocols were very helpful to like keep everything clean and safe. But a lot of the rules just felt excessive. They felt more oppressive and just made the year worse overall, in my
Yes.
opinion. And I can't see what would have happened if we had done those things. So I don't know, maybe they did keep us safe, but, it didn't feel like that.
Yeah. So on the flip side of that question, is there anything that you wish your school had done or done differently? Which you kind of already
Yeah.
touched on, but
Yeah. And see, this is the problem because I am not a health expert, nor am I a psychic. I can't see what would have happened if they had done things differently.
mm-hmm.
And so I'm hesitant to be like, oh, they should have let us go on all these trips because I don't know. Would that have made the year better? Would that have resulted in a bunch of COVID exposures? I don't know. I
Yeah.
can't say. And so I'm hesitant to say that, yes, we should have gone on all these trips. Um, but at the same time, it definitely feels like the year was worse off and yeah, just kind of